our next guest who joins us live on the line. She's the founder of Awake, Illinois, Shannon Adcock. Shannon, welcome back to Mark My Words. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Good evening. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Shannon, I know you are swamped with training, working with school board candidates as we get ready for critical, really important races coming up. But can you give us an update on the work that Awake Illinois? I know you just had that workshop, but can you give us an update of what's happening as we get ready for these races?
Sure. Well, just for anybody who isn't familiar, Awake Illinois really burgeoned from the previous local school board elections. We launched 2 days after the April 2021 school board elections. I was a school board candidate, was not elected, and learned a lot through that process. And it was very clear that parents and communities did not have a nonpartisan way of advocating on the very important issue of education. And so for 2 years, we've really been preparing parents, educators, communities on the importance of local elections. And so here we are in the midst of the now upcoming April 4th, 2023 school board elections, 4423. It's a very easy date to remember, and mail-in balloting goes out February 23rd. So anybody who votes by mail will start to get their ballots February 23rd and after. And so that's going to be the beginning of the votes for what is the majority of tax dollars for local taxpayers. It goes to the public schools. And people are very worried, Mark, on the lacking proficiency and the infusion of political activism in the classroom. And it can be so very easily turned around by voting for pro-child, pro-academic, pro-parental rights, pro-community candidates. And there are so many running right now throughout the state of Illinois, and we're so glad to be empowering them on how to connect with their voters and to get their messaging on their platform across. And it's been transformative. Yes, we had a workshop in early January. We had more than 50 candidates there. They're ready to really bring, common sense and courage and humility and critical thought to the governance of school boards.
Shen, what are some of the common needs of these candidates? Is there sort of a theme on what they need in order to be effective and successful during this important campaign season?
Gosh, that's a great question. And I think that it really comes down to the mechanics of elections. People know that our kids are struggling. They know that they've been struggling even before COVID, even before school closures, where academics really had fallen so far to the bottom. And you look at the reading and the math proficiencies as so well documented and highlighted by wire points. You see that this is a catastrophic issue across the state. And so people know that there's a problem, but what it comes down to is really knowing who's going to solve it. And so what we've aimed to do is Awake Illinois is a registered civic organization with the State Board of Elections. We are nonpartisan, so we don't have to worry about, are you a Republican Party or are you a Democrat Party? People are coming together on the issue of education, talking to people about, are you registered to vote? Are you familiar with the process on voting, whether it's mail-in or early or day of April 4th, 2023. And so what candidates really are working very hard to do is not only describe their platform, which is very obvious. It's about getting these kids academically proficient to reach their greatest potential. Get rid of the activism, the politicalization, the teacher union garbage. But people need to know who to vote for. And so really connecting with the voters is a huge initiative on the part of these candidates in this nonpartisan election, and we're aiming to help do that. But it takes money, and so we've been trying to fundraise, and we encourage people to go to awakeil.com to fund the very important races that are affecting our children. This takes money, and it shouldn't be about politics. It should really be about putting students before the politics, and we're seeing the tide turn, Mark. We really are.
Well, that's exciting to hear, and I want to encourage everyone to go to awakeil.com, awakeil.com. Shannon, I want to get your thoughts, and I know Tom DeVore broke this several weeks ago, but your thoughts on Republican legislators here in Illinois accepting money from the most liberal teachers union. They've been accepting money for a long time, but the fact that they were accepting money since the start of the pandemic was shocking, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
It's incredibly disappointing. It's really disappointing. And when you look at the harms that have been done by teacher unions, they're solely for politics, for political power. And I encourage people to go back to 2010. The documentary Waiting for Superman is powerful. And it goes through Randy Weingarten, who is head of the the National Education Association. Becky Pringle is the American Federation of Teachers. And when you look at the politics behind the corruption of public education, you see why they do not want to see education freedom. They want to maintain political power, and it is an arm of the Democratic Party. When people are aware of how this trail began and where it has led to, and why school closures lasted as long as they did, which irreparably harmed majority low-income minority communities such as Chicago Public Schools, you see how politics have corrupted public education. And so people are ready to take it back. And when you see politicians who are Republican, and let's just say it, I mean, you're supposed to be for conservative values, for limited government, for lower taxes, right? That's the typical way of Republicanism. That has been gone. It has been sold down the river, and you see Republicans have bowed to that dollar from the teacher union. It has brought public education to its knees, not just in Illinois, but across the country. And so we are in a moment of fertile ground to rebuild, and that is where people have placed a lot of hope. And they should. And they know that if the majority of their taxes are going to public schools, the best way to reform it is to vote in people who are going to put children in academics first, not the teacher unions.
We're joined live on the phone with the founder of Awake Illinois, Shannon Adcock. Shannon, there seems to be a lack of emphasis by the National Republican Committee, RNC, by the Illinois Republican Party, and they're not alone. There's a lot of state Republican parties across the country that have really missed the cue on the importance of school board races. You can't find anywhere on a lot of these state party Republican websites, the National Republican Committee website, anything as a resource or tool for parents. Why is that, do you think?
I have been so fortunate to be invited to summits at Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., numerous grassroots think tanks, and people who are really trying to get to the crux of this issue. And the common theme is that Republicans are having a very difficult time as a party defining themselves. And so what you see is, Democrats, even orphan Democrats, they're kind of going with what they've always known because they see it and it's tangible. The Republican Party has so little for people to actually tangibly describe as their value system. They're no longer able to really define their values. And now in Illinois, I say all the time, it's like 1930s Germany, and the Republicans are saying we need to be more like the Nazis to win. It's a terrible strategy. And what they need to do is actually define what their values are and stick to them and be consistent. And that's going to take, Mark, talking about issues that are not really very sexy. Think about that. What are the issues that are affecting people right now? The tax system in Illinois is unsustainable. I did a Twitter thread today that really broke down the taxes that are allocated to our public schools in Illinois versus where we lived previously in Arizona as a case study. This system is unsustainable, but Republicans don't want to talk about it. No, they want to clutch their pearls at the country club and talk about crime and talk about the things that people have been talking about for decades that are not winning elections. And so when people actually get to the concept of what is happening with our tax dollars, what is happening with education, what is happening to the burden that is being carried by families in Illinois, that is where you're going to see reform. And it would actually benefit the Republican Party across the country if they got on board with the message of everyday people on the ground. And who is most in touch with people at the ground level? It's grassroots activism, like Awake Illinois, like so many others that have burgeoned across the country, because we are experiencing this in real time. And if the Republican Party actually gets on board with these issues that, again, are not the typical sexy issues for Republicans, but they have to be consistent on the messaging that is going to get buy-in from conservatives and really, let's just say it, from everyday people who are struggling under this weight of too many taxes in Illinois and children who are struggling in this state.